Hello and welcome to the Carbitrage Podcast, episode 161. I'm Eric Berger, joined as always by Ryan Sinitsky.
Hello there.
And Jana.
Hello.
Hi guys. So we are still doing remote. Maybe the next time we record we'll actually be back in the regular studio, but we will see what Waltz has to say about Minnesota, I suppose.
That would be really wonderful.
Not that the
And my
setup
girl,
is terrible,
Jan.
but... Jan?
She's the head of the Department of Health.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, she's my hero right now. She's
Excellent.
keeping everything together.
Just minty. Well, no, but yeah, together. That's probably a better way to put it.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Well, anyway, we've got obviously a full docket of topics, but before we start on any of that, I want you guys to head on over to patreon.com/Carbitrage, Carbitrage. What Patreon is, it's a platform for content consumers like you to directly support content producers like us. Head on over to patreon.com/Carbitrage. And since actually Ryan brought this to my attention, we haven't mentioned it for a little while on air. If you become a Patreon patron, you do get a shirt and a koozie at the second tier level, and first tier level you get a koozie as well. So something to think about.
Are these podcast koozies?
They are the real deal color podcast koozies. Anyone of our listeners is welcome to grab podcast.
I was just saying, you
koozies.
could probably request the podcast koozie.
Yes, if you would like a
edition
signed limited edition podcast koozie as well, we can handle that.
Yes, we can make that.
They're in high demand, though.
For sure.
They're not going to last long.
But wait, there's more.
Hey, so what are you guys, Burger, what are you drinking?
Currently water, because I forgot to grab a beer when I went downstairs. So when you guys are in the thick of the first topic, I will go get an actual beer.
Actually, I got a beer that I'm shockingly actually a fan of. I have my first Summit that I've ever enjoyed.
Ooh.
What is it?
I don't like the Dakota Soul lager. This is a Pilsner, but it's really good. Big fan of it. It's the only Summit that I don't hate. So yeah, Summit Dakota Soul, totally worth it.
Don't mind their porter at all either, but it has to be the right, I don't know, the right weather out, I guess.
Yeah.
It's a slow drinking beer, which I like.
Yeah, porters are just one of those beers across the board where you 100% need to. It's a certain time of year. It has to be.
You got to plan for it.
Yeah, you can't just like go drink a porter all willy nilly.
No, especially on like an 85-degree day or something. That would just be like drinking sand.
Oh god. I'm drinking local coffee from my local coffee shop called Mug Shots. It's off of Old Shakopee in France in Bloomington.
Nice.
And I was gonna get it delivered because Uber Eats has had free delivery for the longest time.
Yeah.
And then they don't do free delivery anymore. So that's fine.
Dumb. That's a terrible time not to do free delivery.
Yeah.
Their delivery fee is only $1.99, which isn't bad if you're, because like they also do like cafe food, like sandwiches and stuff like that.
Sure.
Oh, that's good.
You're getting food too, but just getting a coffee and it being 3 minutes away, I was like, I'll just drive anyway.
Yeah. That's worth the drive.
I've seen Peter actually recommend doing Postmates. Like he's posted a bunch of screenshots from his app or whatever. He's just been driving around the Model S because obviously his business in drop shipping is a little bit slow too, and he's making pretty good change, honestly, just doing food deliveries in his spare time.
I'm not doing that.
That's awesome.
I've been picking up writing gigs, and I've been so busy. Like I spent an entire evening this week writing about propellers. I can now tell you everything about airplanes. And then I also reviewed like every single spotting lens in the world. And oh my god,
Pass. Just pass.
It's a lot of writing about weird stuff, but
Yeah, if you dig it, that's cool.
I might start doing the Postmates thing. I think he's got the right idea.
The great thing is it doesn't require a vehicle inspection like Uber or Lyft. Because you're not transporting people.
Awesome.
Yeah.
What about not Uber Eats? What's the other one?
Grubhub.
Yeah.
Grubhub's a big one.
DoorDash. That's what I was
DoorDash.
thinking.
Yeah, I think all those are probably fairly similar. They have to be similar to compete. So.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, like you're not gonna care about the safety of a vehicle for your. Like your sandwich isn't gonna get it. it isn't going to be any worse your wear if it doesn't have a seatbelt on.
Well,
No,
that's a bold claim, but okay.
Yes, it is a bold claim. You're right.
Yeah, my coworkers like to get stuff delivered all the time, but during this whole pandemic, I haven't been doing food delivery just because, I don't know, it's made me really nervous, especially after I saw this guy take the takeout from his passenger side and just, like, hand it off to my coworker. And I was just like, I'd rather my food not be in your passenger seat.
Yeah, no, thank you.
It's all covered in toots. Dried toots.
And coughing.
Yeah.
Like, that's the other issue.
I was just like, knowing my passenger seat, I don't want food from the passenger seat.
So, you know, the good thing about people that are doing these delivery things, and actually the people are just kind of essential in the world that are buying these deliveries, like healthcare workers, they are actually being taken care of by Mazda right now.
A couple other car manufacturers, too.
Yeah, a few other, but yeah, Mazda, they released that they're doing free oil changes and cleaning services for healthcare workers.
That's really cool.
Worth noting,
Yeah,
you don't have to have a Mazda either.
Oh,
That's
really?
awesome.
So it's just any car at
Yeah,
Mazda?
it's make agnostic. It's for healthcare
Wow, that's
workers.
great.
Yeah.
That just goes to prove that while Mazda was previously on their way to eating BMW's lunch, now they're proving it that they are also a better company than BMW. I just think that's really cool. That's a really wholesome thing for them. Like when companies don't have to do these things, but they choose to do that because they totally could have gotten away with not doing that.
I agree. That's cool to see them doing that, especially like you don't even have to have a Mazda.
Yeah, that part surprised me. I didn't even know that. I didn't even bother looking that up because I was just didn't expect that to happen. Like,
yeah, my coworker's roommate is a nurse, and her new boo thing is a doctor or a nurse too, and like he works at an like a hospital that's connected to a nursing home, and surprisingly they have 0 coronavirus cases, but her roommate's constantly working with coronavirus cases, and she is so stressed out all the time. So this would probably help them be a little less stressed, because their life is very stressful.
oh yeah, that'd be the worst. But yeah, be able to get your free oil changes. I mean, it's the little things like that help. So
Yeah, I've heard even regular people that are in much arguably less stressful positions are still freaking out about being able to get their oil changed. So
yeah, speaking of which, I need my oil changed done. I'm 500 miles over.
yeah, you should. I mean, you should bring it over
especially on the
house
Sludge Master 1MZ. So
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta
it's
jump on
great.
that.
Well, the thing is, this happened at the beginning of it, and I was like, I'm just gonna wait a little while, just because if I expose myself to anything, I'm exposing all my students to it and their families. So I'm just like, I wanted to wait it out.
You're
and
playing a
see.
waiting game.
But now I've got a mask, so I feel much more confident.
actually,
Even though the mask is,
sorry.
it's just helping me not spread anything, not the other way around.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
everyone
catch
should
me.
be
Peace of mind.
familiar with the infographics where the person exhibiting the symptoms or most at risk should be wearing the mask, not the boomer.
Yeah.
Anyway, I actually just had to change the oil on 2 cars, I guess, this week. One was the Fiat, because I was driving to the Motorplex, and the little wrench icon finally came on the gauge cluster. I'm like, oh, great. I've had it for a year. I knew it was going to request an oil change at some point. And boom, there it went. However, although I got it down to the Plex, bought an oil filter on the way down, had oil, changed the oil, went into the nav computer to reset it. I didn't realize the service menu was in there. Turns out it just wanted a tire rotation. I thought I should do another 3,500 miles on that oil. I'm just like, no, it had enough miles. It came out pretty black. So I ended up changing the oil on that, and then I changed it on Corey's E90 as well, because I did the oil pan gasket on that. But I actually kind of want to segue into the Fiata since I'm talking about it anyway. I was working
we're recording really late because of that car.
Yeah, we were recording about 6 hours late because I decided it would be a great thing to go to the Motorplex at 8 this morning, a prompt 4 hours before we start recording typically. and do the lowering springs and the diff on my 124. So I bought an automatic limited slip diff out of a Barth that was crashed, and I had Eibach springs. Now, on a normal McPherson strut car, granted this isn't that, a set of lowering springs should take maybe an hour and a half with a lift and air tools. So I figured no problem.
No, that's a 4-hour job.
Well, on a McPherson strut car it isn't.
But I mean,
but this is a double wishbone, and it's got a 5-link rear. So anyway, it ended up just being a complete shit show. Like nothing, you had to disassemble, in my opinion, way more than you should have had to. The diff itself, I actually took the time to unbolt it and drop it through the carrier. However, in their infinite wisdom, you have to drop the entire rear subframe down 1 inch to get the diff out, even though there's plenty of room to engineer around that. So I'm not really a fan of that particular thing. It's still a great car. I love it. And Corey actually bought a 124 as well, and he's
I saw that. I'm really jealous of him. I really want one, and I was like, so I'm in this, the Wednesday night intermittently Sonic meet that happens called the Stinky Nugget meet. There's a group chat for everybody in that, and I posted this that 409 61 Bel Air and the Stinky Nugget chat. I'm like, I can afford this, but I'm trying to buy a house. I really want to buy this, and it's like I was set. I should have been able to buy a house like February. If everything had worked out, I would have been perfectly good. And then coronavirus happened, which is like good because now I'm gonna be able to get a house for like way cheaper, hopefully. But
yeah, maybe.
Yeah, knock on wood. I hope that
I think a lot of people are just holding off on listing their homes.
A lot of the houses that we wanted that had sold, their financing was didn't go through. So there's a lot of houses going back on the market that had previously been sold.
Sure, I could see that too. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, like Corey messaged me. He's like, "How bad of an idea is it to get the Fiata?" And I was like, "Let's do some quick calculations." So I was like, "It's not a terrible idea." And then he sends me a picture the next day. And I'm like, "Oh, that was fast."
That's a good decision that he made. I'm very jealous. It's entirely because of timing. Like, I really wish I was either in a house or not anywhere near buying a house. It's just like right now for me, it's just like this sucks because like I could just get like the coolest anything I want for like nothing now.
Dude, when I was looking for a house and I had all that money for the down payment in my account, it was so hard to not buy cars with it. I can't even explain. Like having 30 grand in my bank account, I'm like, ooh.
Dude, that's rough. I'm having like I'm like going into like heart palpitations with 7 grand. I'm like,
I know I've got a few $1,000s in savings too, and I'm expecting a lot more because they still have to refund me my trip, and I'm getting, scholarship and all this stuff, and I'm just like, I could buy a car.
Sure could.
So. Yeah, well, it's not just us, because I play on a Minecraft as well during coronavirus time with John, the guy who Anna's younger brother, who you bought the 3 Series from.
Oh yeah, they like totally flaked out on me, by the way.
What?
Yeah, Anna just stopped responding to my text messages. It was kind of weird.
About buying the car.
Yeah, they were like super excited and they wanted one day to talk about it, and then I waited a week and sent them a message just touching base to see if they were still interested, and just nothing. So I ended up selling it to that compulsive gambler.
That's fine. I mean, it is what it is. They're like really nice people, so they probably just felt really awkward about saying no.
Right, but that's why I phrased it in a way where like, I don't really mind if you don't want to buy it or can't. I just want to know if I should be selling it to somebody else.
Yeah, give them the option. But
anyway.
So anyways, I was talking to John, because John's looking to get a new car. Obviously a BMW is something to be a little bit more of a maintenance pig than he'd be, into really.
Yeah, judging by the state of the car,
are,
I would say.
But I mean, it's just one of those things where a BMW is a very good car if you take care of it.
He needs something with a very strong transmission, from my view.
Yeah, and so we were talking, and we're talking about van culture stuff and vans and everything, and eventually it landed on him finding a van. I kept like saying these different vans and stuff, and talking about like I'm like, yeah, the Sienna is like a great van, and like they've got all these like great vans and everything, like the ones they shouldn't have. And I started using chassis codes, and he started getting really confused because I'm like, dude, I don't know what years the RA1 Odyssey was for sale for, and I had to look it up. I'm like 1994 to 1998. Like,
Oh god.
I'm like, you type in RA1 Odyssey, that's what you're gonna get. Like, that's the first gen Odyssey.
You do
like,
not see many of those anymore. I saw one a couple days ago. I'm like, wow.
But I mean, like, talk about a great van. But anyway, from that, I was thinking when I woke up this morning, I added this topic in, and I'm like, there's a lot of cars out there, because it's like the second time this week that I've had that same conversation where everybody's confused about what they're talking about because of chassis codes.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of cars out there that share chassis codes or share names or engine swaps, or
at least like shorthand in the car community.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm like,
there's so many different variations.
Exactly. Like,
and nobody can read the other one. That's a really good comparison.
Yeah, and so I was wondering, what two cars sharing a chassis code, a slang term, do you guys think have the biggest dichotomy? So my first example was the Toyota E90 versus the BMW E90.
Oh yeah, that's a huge difference.
That's a very different car.
The two completely different things. The Toyota E90 was the first generation of the front-wheel drive one. And the BMW E90 was like really the last arguably good 3 Series.
Mm-hmm.
Both of them, this is what I like about them, is both of them were like the last hurrah of their respective chassis. Whereas like the E90 was the last independent rear suspension Corolla up until the current body style.
Wow.
And the BMW E90
was a last of a lot of really good things, yeah. Yeah,
that one, a lot of good stuff ended with that. And so that one also kind of led me into some other ones, like the Honda LS swap versus the GM. You really have to talk to the person, ask what car they own before you say the term LS swap. Because I say, I'm LS swapping my CRX.
I remember you giving me shit for that like 10 years ago.
I'm LS swapping my CRX. Whereas like somebody says, oh yeah, I'm LS swapping my, C3 Corvette. Totally different things.
I want to see somebody LSV swap a C3 Corvette now.
That would be very cool. But like one of those things, like an LS swap, like an LS is a non-VTEC B series Honda, so a CRV or an LS trim level B series. Very okay engine. It's known as being like the cheapest engine swap upgrade, and it's really good. I mean, 3 hours of work and you gain 30 horsepower. It's worth it. Whereas like an LS into a 3rd generation Corvette is like the best decision you could ever make in your life.
Pretty much. Yeah. It's still going to be a garbage vehicle, but man, okay, yeah.
Yeah, it will be. But Eric, what are some other ones that you think of? Because I also have more weird ones I can rattle off forever.
So, I want to. Okay, so in at least our circles, people say Mark IV all the time.
Oh my God.
You overhear Mark IV in conversations. And you have 2 options. You've got a 94 Supra or you've got a 2001 Jetta. And you never know which one it is unless you turn around and get a look at the person. And then if they've got a vape, they're talking about a Jetta. If they're Hmong, they're talking about a Supra.
That's exactly as I say. You can't even their hat.
Pretty much, yeah. So that's kind of my first inkling. That's the first thing I wrote down. It gets a little more of a digression. The Mercedes 240D, also known as the 240, the Volvo 240. Ryan added the Volvo because I didn't think about that. And also the 240 SX. All referred to as a 240. One of those things, if you're walking through like a Cars and Craft, and you say, well, yeah, my 240, I'm like, oh, cool. What is it? Let me start with 20 questions before we get into it. And then...
it was like I had a conversation with somebody that had a Volvo 240, and I didn't know they had a Volvo 240, and we were having a conversation about B-Series engines.
Sure.
And we went on and this was at
Intermark?
what's that? Yeah, Intermark. we had a good, solid conversation where we were talking about how much we love the B series for the exact same reasons. For like a solid 5 minutes at a minimum. We were like, oh yeah, dude, it's super reliable. It makes really great horsepower per liter. You can find parts for them everywhere still somehow. I have no idea. It's a great engine. Oh, and you can engine swap in like 3 hours. It's the best thing ever. And then eventually he goes, yeah, my Volvo it is just been running forever. I'm like, wait, you have a Volvo? And he goes, yeah, I've got a B21. I'm like, oh, I was talking about a B18 or a B20 for a Honda.
I remember this conversation and just laughing. I was talking to someone else at the time, and then I was like, look, I'm always low-key listening in on Ryan's conversations just because they're usually really funny. And I gotta
also,
keep
they're loud as all hell.
Yeah, and so I was talking to somebody, and then I was hearing snippets of this conversation, and it really sounded like they were both talking about the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then as soon as he said Volvo, it was just everyone looked, because they were all listening in on this conversation, obviously. And then we're all like, wow, that was insane that this actually happened.
Yeah, we held a conversation. We knew what we were talking about.
I don't doubt this for a second. I could see this happening.
Yeah, it's
so
well, I ended up using it. It was with Taylor Finger.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, next to his Volvo, by the way.
Yeah, next to his Volvo.
So you should have known.
Now I can hear the conversation as well as believing it, so great.
Yeah, I didn't know that was his Volvo at that point in time.
Sure.
And
True, you didn't know yet.
I didn't think about the fact that the Volvo 240's engine's called a B series. And it's just one of those things that's just what? Just totally space my mind. In hindsight, it makes sense. Who on earth brings a Honda to Intermark? That's Hondas totally belong there, but nobody ever brings their Hondas there.
Yeah.
I'm sure in due time it'll happen.
Oh yeah, I mean I saw a S30 there. Also, I feel like there's a BMW S30.
There's an S36 and an S38. They're engines. But no S30.
Yeah, because I think there's some other weird Nissan BMW crossover between either their engines or the
yeah. I'm sure there are.
It was the S14.
And there's the M30, and there's a lot of engine to chassis crossover, and I've actually got one more of those that actually is a Nissan. And that is the S14, another 240 ref, and the BMW S14, which is the 30M3 engine. So both of those things are basically cult vehicles at this point. So
yeah, they're two very cult things. And if you're at a vintage import meet,
yep,
they mean two very different things.
Yep, and they're probably going to both be talked about for different reasons. So
yeah, and for me, just people strike up conversations with me, and everyone assumes I know what they're talking about. And I'm a smart person, but I'm very bad at correlating things when people are talking to me. Reading and whatnot, I'm really good at just gathering context clues and figuring what things they're talking about. But when people are talking to me, I have no clue what's going on at most points in time. And I think it's only gotten worse now that I work with children, because I'm just used to having to figure out what they're saying rather than them giving me the information. And so when people are talking about a 240, I'm just
it's just an alphanumerical soup.
And then it doesn't help that I'm both a little dyslexic and dysgraphic, so you shout out alphabetical and numerical code to me, and I have no clue what you're talking about. I will pretend to know what you're talking about.
Oh, hell yeah.
And figure it out through context clues. But there's a good chance that I'll leave the conversation not knowing what you were talking about, because it's just wait, there's too many numbers and letters. The closest I got was Subaru codes, but even then, those I'm now confused because I've forgotten them all.
Subaru. Well, this is what's irritating about Subaru, engine codes. So they make sense for the first 4 alphanumerical bits.
Yeah.
So you have EJ. You know what an EJ is. EJ20. You now know it's a 2-liter. What's EJ 205 versus EJ 207?
207 is the semi-closed block. Is that
207 and the 205. If I remember correctly, the 205 is the American WRX. The 207 is the Japanese WRX.
Right, I think that had to do with
No.
the block webbing, didn't it?
But I mean, like, that's the thing is you have no way of knowing. Whereas with the Honda, when you say a B18,
Right.
you know it's a B series, it's 1.8, and then A and B. Once you get to know Honda, A and B means one thing, and then C means VTEC, and then all the VTEC ones are C.
What is Z?
C.
What
Charlie.
is Z?
Is B8 B20Z?
Yeah, I'm just asking what the Z means. Like
No,
DZ. Like the Z
Oh
series.
no,
heads.
there is no Z. C isn't Charlie. So
There-
B18.
Right, but in the
and
D
then
series,
C.
there is a Z series head.
Oh, there's a ZC. That's a different thing.
There's like a D18 Z6 or Z whatever it was.
Oh, a Z6. So that's on the D series one. That's on
I
the
understand.
single
I'm asking what
Yeah.
the Z means.
The Z would mean the Z's and the Y's. So on the single cams, because they made the single cams a different era before they made the dual overhead cams,
Mhm.
or after they made the dual overhead cams, they decided to differentiate them more by moving the VTEC model designations further down the alphabet, so you can't possibly mix them up.
Okay.
Because the B18A and B, that's like, okay, non-VTEC, cool. And then you have the B18C, which is VTEC.
Yep.
Well, if you need a fourth generation non-VTEC B series, you would run into where the VTEC nomenclature is. So that's why in the single cams, because they came out with those 4 years later, they moved those to the opposite end of the alphabet. So
okay.
They like at least made an attempt
Yeah.
to like make it like.
Well, it's
make
nothing
sense,
like
as
Lincoln.
opposed-
Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, well, you mean like Lincoln? Also,
Infinity.
yeah. Oh my God, we're just like worthless soup.
See, I was just thinking, so like, archaeology sites both have numbers and letters in them, and I was like, why don't those confuse me? And it's because they're always labeled like state, which is like there's a number given to each state. So like Minnesota's 21,
Mhm.
and then it's county in letters. So like my site's in Murray County, so it's 21 MU, and then the site number up to 3 digits. So like the site I go on most frequently is 21 MU 003, and
That
like
makes sense.
Yeah, that does make
It's-
sense.
so like maybe what's the one that like nobody can figure out? Infinity should steal that, and like
I think
'cause-
Infinity.
This
Infinity
is Site
had a
Q50.
perfectly good system.
They did, yeah.
Yeah, they had a perfectly good system until they decided not to do that anymore.
yeah,
It's
so like
so they like purposefully did
And I
that.
think that was the extent of their decision too. They're just like, "Hey, we're gonna do this now." Like, all right. Like nobody even thought to. Anyway, I know it's for global trademarking, but man, I cannot even fathom almost anything. I
So-
know like 2 or 3
so they
of the
just need
models
to
now.
they just need to find a formula that can cover it,
Mhm.
like,
Oh yeah,
and stick with it.
and it's easy to
So,
do with
like,
numbers
so-
and letters too.
Yeah, and like some people will try to shorten the site to just 3, and I always grade it as wrong because that's where you can get confused because then you can add numbers behind it. So I always tell students, I was like, you've got to add those zeros in there. Otherwise, just like now that it's 2020, we can't just put the year as 20 because like gets confusing because we're not used to seeing that.
You have a
number.
100-year difference of archaeology there.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, the records will exist for more than 100 years, so
There's like Y2K.
dude.
That they had that whole issue there.
Yep.
So there are some other weirdo ones in these ones, whereas like most of these, for the most
Nice.
part, like they make sense. Like you can still hold a conversation. People love the Mark IV Jetta and the Mark IV Supra, like a lot. Like
Yeah.
for their two different
There's definitely
communities.
passion on both sides.
There's passion on both of them. However, if you say I drive an LS, and you drive a Lincoln LS, not a Lexus LS, those are two very different things.
Yeah.
One of those things is beloved by the community. The other one is an awful little bastard child that should never exist.
Seriously, yeah. The more I read into those, I'm like, what? This uses a Jaguar S-Type 3.9 liter V8? And it's
Yeah,
based on
it's-
the Thunderbird? What the hell?
It's really bad, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it gets worse and worse the more you read into the Lincoln LS. I used to think they were kind of cool looking, but man, they're garbage
And then
cars.
my
All sorts of
last one that I'm coming up with here. Also going on to the 240 with the 240 SX,
Yo, dog.
Volvo 240 and 240D.
Heard you like 240s.
The 240Z.
Oh.
Because then
Yep.
you'll be talking to somebody
That's true.
with a Nissan about Nissans. It's two different models, and one of them is probably somebody you don't want to talk to, and the other one drives a Datsun.
You don't know
Anyway.
how many times that happens to me at car shows with guys trying to flirt with me. And
Yeah, I
have
drive a
no
240.
clue what
It's just
you're talking
like it's just some like clapped together 37 shades of purple like 240s
I'm like,
like SX.
Cool.
It's just a
but
piece
also-
of garbage S13.
This is one that people don't mention that much, but the FD Civic versus the FD RX-7.
Yeah.
So Kimmy's Civic from Drive Cartel, that's the FD Civic.
Okay.
Whereas FD RX-7 is the best RX-7.
That is unequivocally
like-
true, yes.
Yeah, that is unequivocally true that is the best RX-7. Whereas the FD Civic is a very good Civic, but it's still not an EK. So it's like...
God, if that's not damning with faint praise, I don't know what is.
That's the thing. Is like, well, that's the thing. Is like one's objectively great, the other one is arguably great. So yeah, that's these names. We need better naming systems, or what we need is, I think this should be our system. Japan should use exclusively like just use things that are alphanumerical. So
Well, good luck, Jana.
yeah, so Japan, because they've proven for the
I'm
most
out.
part that they can do alphanumerical better, with the exception of Subaru, because they kind of suck. I think that Germany should do the Mark or the Series, so like the Series 2 or the Mark 4, things like that. That's what Europe should do. And then America should just do letters only.
Or just name all the cars.
Well, I mean, like for like their like chassis codes,
Oh,
like just
okay.
do letters only.
Yeah.
I think that
HB, GN, yeah.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Mm.
Because when somebody says, "Yeah, I'm doing
Especially if
a
it was
LS
consistent.
swap," like you now know, okay, cool, it's for sure an LS.
Mm-hmm.
Then if you're doing a B18 swap, you know, okay, it's a Honda. Or I've got a Mark IV, you know that
It's
it's going to be
German.
a Jetta, or it's
Right.
going to be German, yes. Or if I'm doing a Series 2, you know it's British.
Yeah. British are
think
definitely series. Oh, I've got a Series 2
That would
Jaguar.
work Perfect.
Right.
That would work perfectly. I think that'd be
agree.
a perfect solution.
Yeah,
I think
that's pretty accurate.
we saved the world, and I think we should all be happy here.
Wow.
So there you go. Your top tip is that we saved the world with chassis codes.
And I guess I'm unable to use that as a segue, but I'm just
sorry.
gonna push through anyway. So about 10 years ago, Porsche released in their lifestyle catalog a replacement head unit for old air-cooled and water-cooled like 911s, 924s, things like that. So it's a standard one-DIN head unit slot, but they wanted something, and I totally get this, and I look for this all the time. They wanted something that looked factory, but
Yes.
performed like a modern radio. So,
Yes.
about 10 years ago, Porsche did that. It was a little 1U thing with knobs and a little screen on it, and it had nav, and it was great, but it was $900. So,
Yeah.
didn't sell all that well, but it's awesome that it existed. And Porsche's actually got a really extensive and really awesome lifestyle electronics catalog. Like, they've got a bunch of housewares and stuff like that are actually not that expensive, that are pretty nice. So Porsche design is definitely something worth looking into. But anyway, the reason why I bring that up is they just updated their retrofit radio. So it's almost identical. The screen's a little bit better, and they added CarPlay. Pretty cool. However, the screen on it is like 3 inches. So I'm not exactly sure. I guess it's 3.5 inches. But like CarPlay on a screen that's smaller than your phone screen seems a little dumb.
Yeah.
What was was it Alpine or Blaupunkt that came out with that single DIN where they did it the exact radio that they had put into the 930?
That would have
But
been
they modernized
Blaupunkt.
it?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was the E31. Yeah, it was the Porsche and BMW. But yeah, they came out with that one, and they just updated everything. Instead of the cassette deck, when you flip open the cassette deck,
Mhm.
you have all your inputs for like your phone. It's got a USB port, CUSB, an aux. It's all there. It's hidden in the cassette deck. But if you look at it on the outside, it looks perfectly normal.
That's
It just
pretty
is-
cool.
Yeah.
And that's a huge gripe I had. Well, not as much anymore because car stereos are good and feature rich from the factory. But 10 years ago, everyone was swapping out their car stereos, and
Yeah.
all of them look like trash. With
Oh my God,
there's the
yeah.
exception. There's a couple of Blaupunkt Marine radios that actually look really good, and then Volkswagen had a Mark IV Euro, and I do mean Mark IV Euro
Yes.
one din head unit that was like it was a Blaupunkt. Like it looked monolithic and it fit all the interiors. It didn't have crazy lights or weird buttons, but it had aux, it had Bluetooth, it had all the features you'd want, and it was reasonably-ish priced. I mean, after you factor in international shipping, it was often cost prohibitive, but I'd love to know why more manufacturers don't do stuff like this.
They are moving to that now, actually, because Clarion, they do it for like their SEMA cars now.
Mhm.
Instead of doing crazy over-the-top builds, they're
Mhm.
doing their Clarion build series, and when they do those, they're actually like restorations of cars.
Those series are actually really good.
Yeah, so I'll show you the Clarion builds. I think they did it 2002. Yeah, they did.
They did. And an E30.
Yeah, and then they also did their NSX. And I'll show you the interior in their NSX, where it's got a modern radio and like it blends in perfectly. Like you can barely tell that it's not an original radio. Like it is a touchscreen radio,
Mhm.
but it blends into the actual aesthetic of the car so well that you wouldn't really think about it.
Sure.
They do have stuff like there's a big subwoofer in it and everything, which
Of
is
course.
like neither here nor there.
I had
But, I mean,
issues
they
with that
have
in the
to.
E30 build.
Yeah, but I mean, like, if you look at the actual dashboard, it looks solid. Like, it's totally, like, you wouldn't think that this is out of the norm. I just put that in the Carbitrage Discord, and if you were a Patreon, you could actually be looking at it right now.
I don't see it.
But yeah, Eric, it will be up there in a second. It's under. Oh, I put it under Gamer BTW. One
Alright,
second.
That's fine. I'll hop in there.
There you go. It's under the normal one.
That's all right. Got it.
I do have to say, like, one of my issues with Manuel is that somebody took out his original stereo, and part of his interior was literally a cassette holder.
Oh,
And,
yep.
like, it was an optional extra, and I was always so upset when I would get in the car and I'd see this beautiful cassette holder and then not be able to put it in because there's a radio that poorly fit and was just super ugly and not very good
Mm-hmm.
in its place. And like, I searched Honda forums forever for just like a stock radio, and nobody had them anymore.
Yeah, it's
Well,
tough.
we wanted the exact one because
Yeah.
with Honda you can get Honda is like Volkswagen, where they have like really good factory radios.
Mm-hmm.
But the ones we can find are Honda 3000s, which are like really good but super expensive. I really wanted a Honda 2000 because that was actually sold in America, and that was a really good.
Johnny
one.
Tran had one of those in the Fast and the Furious.
Did you? Oh my God, no! The Honda 2000 cassette deck. There you go. Same thing with that whole confusion thing.
There you go.
Impossible to look
S2000.
Yeah. versus the
Only
Honda 2000
idiots would
cassette
call an S2000 a 2000, though. I gotta
deck.
say.
Yeah, the Honda 2000's video. Caden had Honda 1000, but the Honda 1000s weren't as good, just because you couldn't add any other like amplifiers or anything to it,
Sure.
and so they were kind of finicky, and we could never find the right adapter to plug it in. It was such a nightmare.
Yeah.
And now we're going to be selling that car. It's just like at this point it's just a lost cause.
Yeah, it's just
Rip.
Yep. Rip.
Rip.
jeez.
Yeah, it was a big oof, but it wasn't the biggest oof.
1.0 large oofs.
The biggest oof actually came from the auto industry in the month of March.
Your audio cut out. The month of what?
The month of March.
Okay.
Because I did some research this morning when working in your car, and they sold 903,000 vehicles
In the U.S.?
in the U.S.
Wow.
So 2019 they sold 1.55 million.
Oh. So that's like 600,000 down.
Yeah, that's a big oof. It's over 600,000 down.
That's like,
in fact,
that's like almost 30%.
Oh yeah, in fact, the only time it's in recent histories, going back to 2005, as far back as from goodcarbadcar.net, 2009 they sold 800,000 cars during the middle of the recession. That's how bad March was for car sales. So, yeah,
I mean, I believe it.
Yeah,
I was helping
that would be the biggest oof.
Corey with the negotiations on his new 124, and I was kind of stunned at a few things.
New?
What's that?
Is this actually new?
It has 1,000 miles on it, and they don't make them anymore. So it was not listed as new, but like, let's be honest, it's a new car. But I understand you're not going to get new car financing on it, so it is what it is. But I was stunned at how little dealers were willing to try to get better financing, how little they would move on anything related to like doc fees. Like it was like pulling teeth to get them to take an additional, I think it ended up being like $650 off a $25,000 price tag. And granted, the car's sticker price was like $33 and it was already listed at $25, so there was a lot down. But I mean, like, try to make a deal.
$10,000 off, yeah. That's $10,000 off already, almost.
It is, but I mean, you look at what else is for sale in the country, and then you look at used versions of that identical car, or even just other dealer lot 1,000-mile cars. Like, it was still, they could do better. But just and you can tell that the salespeople are not the issue. They're just told that they can't do it, and it's got to be immensely frustrating. I mean, Corey said that the guy actually ended up writing him a personal check for, I think, part of the difference that I was pushing for, and that made me feel bad. But
that's why I'm not in car sales.
Yeah,
is like you're not in control of your destiny at all.
Oops.
And you're like, they're like, you have to sell 14 cars this month or you're fired, and we are not going to help you in any way.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, Donald Trump was elected president. Car sales went down. Let me double check here.
Also,
I actually happen to have this on my list here.
Car companies are also making trash compared to what they used to make, which doesn't help. But yeah, I felt bad for sure.
Here we go. So yeah, the car sales that month were down like 30,000 sales, which is noticeable, which is like 2 sales from me.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just like things like that. Like you don't get any help in that industry, and it's like you're just gonna get steamrolled over. Like if like coronavirus happens, they're probably not gonna give him any. They're not gonna give this car salesperson any help on their monthly goal. It's
probably
like,
not.
Obviously, you're not gonna hit your goal, guaranteed.
No, and I'm sure this person didn't either. I did end up pushing him into getting financing at the dealer, because typically the dealer gets a pretty significant cutback on.
That's a very good decision on your part, especially that salesperson writing the check, because that check that the salesperson wrote, that probably helped him out a little bit. It probably didn't. And
that's what I said. I mean, like, Corey's like, yeah, the guy said no, but he would pay him it personally. I'm like, well, ask them about their financing then, because they get a huge cutback if they finance your car. And I'm glad he did, because yes, it helped out the deal, probably helped out that salesperson specifically, and it was a full % better than the credit union rate that he got, which was nuts. So win-win-win. Yeah, he ended up getting 3.25. That was pretty good.
Interest rate. That's great.
Yeah,
that's better than I get.
I know, that's about what I got on the Model S. I'm just like, okay, that's impressive.
That's a really, really good rate for this car. Van.
I think it helps when you borrow a lot less than the book value of your car. I think that's really
my car payment today. I'm gonna make that payment.
Gross. I've had to. I hate doing those when I'm working from home. I'm like, screw this. Anyway, neither here nor there.
Also, RCU really good about their car loans. Giving them a big shout out.
RCU? Who dat?
Yeah, Royal Credit Union.
Oh,
real good. Big fan of them.
They're local.
They also they're from Wisconsin.
Okay, that's close enough.
But yeah, they do a really, really good job just making it easy to pay from other accounts. Like I just paid it between the time I said I need to make this car payment. I literally just did my car payment right now from my Wells Fargo bank account.
Nice.
To an RCU, thing
With
having to
the
call
advent of modern electronic payments, it staggers me that everything cannot be confirmed and done instantaneously, because it can.
Right?
Well, it's like, the dumbest part about that is, like, when I was working at Good Karma, I was still, like, working inside of my office before on furlough for, like, a month and a half. Like, every time Keith had to make a car payment, he'd have to take an hour out of his life and call them up during, like, business hours while, like, doing, like, accounting stuff.
Pooping. He was pooping.
Yeah, well, no, he was actually working. He was doing accounting stuff, but I'd have to, like, answer phone. It was, like, always a freaking ordeal. And he had to do this once a month for, like, the next, like, life. And it's like, dude, just refinance it through anybody else.
Pretty much.
And you'll be fine. Like,
and I'm willing to handle stuff like that sometimes to an extent if the rate is that much better, which is why I use the credit union I use, but, like, they are shit. They have such great rates.
I'm sorry, if I'm going to get, like, a 0, I'm willing to deal with some BS. But if I'm, like, working on, like, the difference between, you know, like, a 3.5 and a 3.2, that math doesn't add up in my head. Because I look at how much my time is worth, which minimum amount of time is $20 an hour, is what my time is worth. If I'm spending more than that to, like, just dealing with this company, I'm not going to. It's just not worth it for me.
That's fair. I mean, yeah, like I said, there's always that, like, tipping point in a curve where it's worth it and not worth it, but that's a good way to decide at least where that arbitrary point is. Anyway, I want to cap this off with a couple short ones here.
Are you bargaining on a new car purchase, or is that about Corey's car?
That was me helping Corey buy, because he has no idea what the hell he's doing. And, yeah, I've obviously dealt with a 124 and that dealership before specifically, so that certainly helped.
Tell me off air about what dealership that is.
That was Schmelz Countryside. I have no issue saying it.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, I want to talk about... I was actually going to cover this a little bit more at length, but I found a better story that I'd totally forgotten about. Mini is finally shipping their Mini Cooper E in the States, which is great. It's got an updated version of the i3 powertrain.
Oh, good.
And we've talked about it before, so I'm not going to cover the car. But their wheels were called Corona Spoke wheels, and Mini has now decided to change it to Power Spoke. So that's pretty cool, huh? There's a better photo of the Corona Spoke wheels.
It is a very cool wheel. I like that wheel. That's a good wheel.
I am a fan of the odd 4-spoke thing. It's pretty cool.
So, speaking of Corona-related things, my friend Colin got kicked out of this Facebook group called Car Museum, which is, like, just boomers talking about their whatever cars.
Okay.
Posting pictures of cars on the internet. Because he posted up a picture of a Toyota Corona, and one of the moderators thought that it wasn't a real car.
Oh, no.
He goes, "No, this is a real car. Why'd you turn off commenting? There isn't a real car called a Corona." And then banned him from the group. So then, of course, what happened was everybody else that knows Colin decided to go into that group and spam the group.
Good.
Of boomers, mind you, that don't care about Toyotas, with pictures of Toyota Coronas. It was beautiful. It was
justice.
It was beautiful, beautiful justice. I'm very happy that happened.
I have a nice,
just because
rich molasses flavor in my mouth from that story.
Perfect.
And anyway, on one last note here, I think this was actually announced like almost a month ago, so my apologies for not bringing it up. But the next gen Mazda 6, we already knew it was getting a really excellent inline 6 we've talked about. But it's also going rear-wheel drive, which is pretty awesome. BMW. So, yeah, forget the BMW. Go get one of these.
Yeah, go buy a Mazda 6.
That is intense.
Yeah, that's kind of odd that that's like news now, because it's it's been kind of like rumored like so much that it was like right before they released the
Your microphone's cutting out really bad, Ryan.
Sorry, it's like right before they released the GTR. Like, it had already been in Gran Turismo. So much hype about that. There's no way they weren't going to do that. Right. And that's kind of how the rear-wheel drive Mazda 6 was in the Japanese car market. So I'm very happy it's confirmed. just not surprised.
Yeah.
Like I thought it was known at this point.
It is. I mean, especially when they announced that there's an inline 6 coming to the next gen Mazda 6, like, you really can't do one of those transverse well. I mean, Volvo did it, so I mean, you can do it, but we knew it was going to be longitudinal, which means rear-wheel drive.
Yeah, and I'm really happy that they're doing that. And actually, I think that they are rear-wheel drive stuff as well, just that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really happy about this, because I remember back when we were at the Chicago Auto Show with JNC 5 years ago or something. I was talking to one of the guys from Mazda. He kept hinting at all this really cool stuff that they're doing now.
Mm-hmm.
And oh my goodness, this picture that JNC posted of the rear end of that car. Put this on the stream.
You have to tell me where you're putting stuff.
Oh, sorry. Carbitrage General. This is my new favorite rear end of a modern vehicle.
Sorry.
Because that looks properly good.
Oh, yeah. That's a good... Oh, God.
All of those proportions are perfect. I love the cutout for the exhaust and everything.
Also, this has billet wheels and carbon ceramic Brembos on it, so...
I feel like those are going to be exceedingly optional.
the rental spec Mazda 6 4-cylinder has carbon ceramics on it.
Yeah, just your normal mom car now is like $3,000 brake jobs. It'd be the fastest. Actually, really, if Mazda wanted to be BMW as much as they are, they would do that and just his life, and nobody'd ever buy him again.
This looks like... Do you remember about 12 years ago, there was a concept car from Lamborghini called the Estoque, or Estoque?
What's that?
It was a 4-door sedan, and it looked almost exactly like this, and it looked really good. Estoque.
Oh, there it is. Okay, yeah. Oh wow, it does look a lot like that.
So anyway, I'm glad they're kind of potentially drawing, knowingly or not, on inspiration from that car.
To be fair, I mean, it would be the first time Mazda did stuff like that. I mean, they've used Gantini, they've used Michelotti. They've done a lot of the Italian designers. So yeah, I would not be surprised if they used the same designer that.
I'm going to pull up awesome. A photo of the Estoque just for the viewers. So the rear end is almost identical, just a little less angular.
Yeah, the rear end on the Estoque looks like a cross between the new 6 and like a Camaro.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what it reminded me of.
Or an Aventador, but yeah, I think this predated all of those. Like, this was post-Gallardo, but...
Yeah, that front end from the Estoque really kind of came into its own with like the new stuff like the Huracan and the God, what is the Sisto Elemento?
Sisto Elemento, yeah.
Yeah, it looks like a Sisto Elemento front end.
It's true, it does. Very angular. Yeah, that's kind of a design language that we saw in concepts and in that one-off essentially, but we really didn't see come into models yet. I almost wonder if we're going to see that inspiration in the next generation of their hypercars. But either way, this is a car that I wish had happened, and the anus should have never existed.
Yeah, the anus is rubbish and should go away forever. That car's awful. It was just is objectively awful.
And what a great note to end 161 on.
All right. Well, thank you for listening to us talk to you about cars during coronavirus when you're probably working from home. And we'll catch you next week. Same day, same place.
Thanks for listening.
See you later.
Bye-bye.